back again. So another way to find equilibrium is by using equations. We have our equilibrium equation. Already made a mistake. There. Aggregate expenditures equal to income. We saw for y we can find equilibrium. So let's substitute in for aggregate expenditures. Aggregate expenditures is equal to our consumption equation, which is again was right here. So it's 500 plus 0.75 times disposable income. So our disposable income is 500, and then it'd be 0.75 times disposable income. That's a little d. Plus my investment, which is 250, plus my G, which is 1,250. Let's go ahead and collect the constants. We have 1,250, 250, 500. That gives us 2,000. Plus 0.75. Now I can't solve for equilibrium with a YD there because I need to have a Y. So I can change that to a Y because YD, disposable income, is income minus taxes. So these are the same thing. I just substituted Y minus T for YD. And then I can multiply 0.75Y times 0.75Y and then 0.75 times minus T. So 0.75y, and then 0.75 times t minus t. But what is t? It's taxes, right? And it's how much? 1,000. So what's 75% of 1,000? 750. So that is what the taxes does to my consumption. It's not going to drop my consumption by 1,000. It's going to drop my consumption, or the economy's consumption, I should say, by 750. So we're going to pay that tax bill of $1,000 billion out of two sources. One is out of money we're using for consumption. So consumption will go down by 750. And the other impact that I can't see here directly, but I know it is the case, is the only other place the money can come out of is money we were saving. And so this is the impact it would have on consumption. And that's what taxes does. Taxes, when you tax someone, you don't pull out that amount of money of spending directly. Because we, as households, we can fund our tax bills out of money we used for consumption and out of money we were using for savings. So now it's just another constant. I will apply that over to here. And so 2,000 minus 750 would be 1,250 plus 0.75y. And then I can set this equal to income. So I'm going to substitute this right into there. So on the left side we have 1,250. Those are all the constants together. That was the autonomous consumption, that was the investment, that was government spending, all positive numbers. And then the tax amount that affects consumption was a negative 750. All those four numbers together leave me with that, 1,250. And then we have 0.75y times y is equal to y. And now we're back to where we were in Chapter 8, solve for y. Subtract 0.75y on both sides. You want to do that because that will get rid of it on the left side. Subtract 0.75y on the right side, and that'll give us 0.25y. And the only thing left over on the left side is 1,250. Divide both sides by 0.25. Get my calculator. My high-tech calculator. And so we have 1,250 which is on the left side, divide that by 0.25, and it's 5,000. Once I solve for y, I'm going to give it an e there. Now it's equilibrium, and that's equal to $5,000 billion. So that confirms what we got was correct. Hopefully you can read my writing. If you want to take a picture of that, if you can't see what I'm doing, maybe take a picture and then try to study it. Maybe ask me a question on the form. Then we can also find equilibrium of the graph. Now we're going to start looking at a thing called full employment income. And this is the amount of income output needed to have the economy to be at full employment. So this is how much income we would want to be at full employment. If you look at the table here, I don't know where full employment is. I know equilibrium. So now currently the economy is at $5,000 billion, but I don't know if that's full employment. Are we on the frontier? We don't know that information. And so what I would do on the exam is I would tell you where full employment is, and then you find out equilibrium, and then you determine what economic condition we have. So one way to have equilibrium at full employment, which is one of our macroeconomic goals right there, little f there is for full employment, and this is equilibrium. Now let's graph our aggregate expenditure line based on the table. So based on our table, we have our aggregate expenditure equation. It's right here, and that was we came 1,250 plus 0.75y. That's after we substituted y minus t for disposable income. And so now we see that if y is 0, our aggregate expenditure is going to be 1,250, which is somewhere around there. We know it's going to go through, this is the equilibrium line here, we know it's going to go through that line at 5,000. And then we know, based on the table, when income is 8,000, put 8,000 in there, we're going to come up with 7,250. I know that because right here on the table, that's the number right there, when income is 8,000. So 7,250 when income is 8,000. So income is 8,000. It's going to be at 7,250. Right about there. And so if I did a good job plotting, I should get a line through those 3 points. Too bad. So this is my equilibrium line, the 45-degree line, and aggregate expenditures a little flatter than the equilibrium line because the slope is 0.75. That's the consumption MPC. And so over here, we would have higher spending than our income. Here we would have less spending than our income, and this would be equilibrium right there. So now if full employment income was, say, 5,000 where we are, then that would mean we're at equilibrium at full employment. And that is one of our macroeconomic goals. Now what would happen if equilibrium was less than full employment. We'll say that full employment is no longer 6,000. Let's say it's no longer 5,000. Let's say it's 6,000. And this would be full employment here, and we don't have enough spending to be there. So if that was the case, you would have a recessionary problem. If equilibrium was less than full employment, that would mean we're inside our production possibilities frontier. It will mean that the unemployment rate that's reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics is above the natural rate, which means we have cyclical unemployment. The other problem is if we have, say, full employment was at, say, 4,000. So full employment income is 4,000. That would put it over here. And so we're spending more than that. We're spending 5,000. So we want to be at 4,000. We're at 5,000. We're spending more than we can produce. We are not outside our frontier, but we're trying to buy outside our frontier. We're trying to buy things that we cannot produce. All that excess demand just goes into inflation. So if we have our full employment is less than equilibrium, this would be inflationary. So I made up three numbers for full employment. We had 5,000. In that case, if full employment is 5,000, that's where we are. That's equilibrium, and that's fine. Equilibrium income, again, is 5,000. Equilibrium is where we are. Full employment is where we want to be. And if full employment is at $5,000 billion, then we're exactly where we want to be. If full employment is above equilibrium, then we're below where we want to be, and that's recessionary. And we try to deal with that using maybe fiscal policy. And if it's equilibrium is above full employment, all that extra spending that we're trying to do just drives into inflation. And we can also counteract that with fiscal policy as well. And so the next lecture, we're going to look at an example of using fiscal policy to solve an economic problem.